You guys want to see something cool? Look what I got. It's an actual clapperboard. Watch this. Sunday Antisocial for January 19th, 2025. Let's go. Hello and welcome to the Gribble's Folly Sunday Antisocial Hour. That time each week when I smoke my pipe and complain about humanity while answering all of its questions. And if you are a piece of humanity with a question for me, leave it in the comments down below with the hashtag AskGribs. I will answer any question. Big questions, small questions, personal questions, obscure questions. Try as you might, you cannot imagine a question I cannot answer. This is an important Sunday Antisocial because this is going to be our New Year reintroduction. I feel like most of us know each other pretty well by now, but there might be some new subs. I'm always getting new subs, almost at a rate that makes up for the ones that I lose every time I piss someone off. So for you new folks, you new guys and gals, there's no gals, there's no women watching this channel. You know, we used to have a rule that if you did not have a penis, your question moves to the front of the line. So if you would like to qualify that when you leave a hashtag AskGribs question, you can also hashtag it no penis. We're gonna get to the reintro and all of your AskGribs questions, of course, but there is some news, breaking news. I am a filmmaker now. You know why? You know what? It's not because of my professional, highly trained, lifelong honing of my visual arts skills. It's definitely not because I know what I'm doing. It's because I bought a clapperboard. This mofo was $35 at B&H. I could have gotten a $10 one at Amazon, but you know, you got a client, right? You don't want to show up with a cheap clapperboard. I mean, even though all the other equipment isn't actually video equipment and you don't really know what you're doing, the clapperboard, yeah, image matters. I glued a gray card to the back so we can check our white balance, which I don't think I've ever done here before. That looks white, sure. So 2 weeks ago, I had no voice. You heard how things were. You heard how things were going. They were not going well. And I did try that week to make an antisocial for Sunday, but I ran out of time because of a giant weather event. I'm kind of over those. I ran out of time because I had to leave for a weekend out of state making a film. And then there was a weather event and I had to leave sooner than I thought I would to get out from under the weather. It was kind of stressful. So I didn't get to it last week. I almost didn't get to it this week because I just came from the hospital where an old friend of mine had his foot chopped off because he had undiagnosed diabetes. Apparently that's the way our healthcare system works now. You don't know you got diabetes until they take your foot off. Less than ideal. That is suboptimal. Anyway, here we are. So I'm making an effort in this new year as I manifest the filmmaker role, as I embody my new Alfred Hitchcock. I'm making an effort to up our production quality here on the Sunday Antisocial because I want to go syndicated with this thing. I want this to be a podcast. I'm putting it out there, so I might actually do it. It'll take like 10 minutes to make a podcast out of this. It's just, I never get around to it. So I'm actually saying it out loud. And if you can't see it, I can't tell if you can see it. We have a microphone here in front of me, right here. There it is. In theory, the closer to my face hole the microphone is, the less gain I need. And it should not amplify the trucks going by outside. That would be nice, wouldn't it? I don't really care about the quality. I mean, obviously, if you're watching my channel, you don't care about quality either. And that was my sales pitch to my filmmaking client. They called me up and they said, hey, I know you're a photographer, but I need a film made. Can you help me with that? And I said, well, I have no training, no knowledge. I don't have the equipment to do it. But if you have money, absolutely I can help you. We did have to have a conversation about how artistic vision is more important than absolute quality. And I really hope I'm gonna live up to that conversation. I think so. We had a good weekend. It was something else. It was intense. Let's get to all the stuff we gotta get to. If you are just tuning in, my name is Max and I smoke a pipe, and that's pretty much, that's the extent of my qualifications, my expertise on anything. I am some dude that makes videos in his garage. But I have been doing it for 10 years. This year will mark 10 years that this channel has been going. Isn't that insane? 10 years? So that's got to count for something. In my non-video life, I am a photographer, and I do the usual photographer things, like not make a lot of money and boss people around. I shoot a lot of weddings. You know, I shoot a lot of weddings. I like shooting weddings, but my background is in art and photojournalism and, you know, all that stuff, and that really never gets any use. This channel is kind of one of my only creative outlets in that regard. And, you know, I used to take people along on my adventures in the woods. We'd go out and we'd shoot waterfalls with interesting analog cameras and that sort of thing. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. They just want to watch me bitch. People tune in to the Sunday Antisocial where I complain way more than they tune in to me pursuing artistic joy in the woods. This is what people want. And so that is what I will give them. Here we are again together. I feel like I need to disclaim, if you're just tuning in for the reintroduction, I need to disclaim a few things. It is called Gribble's Folly, and the reason that it is called Gribble's Folly is that's a character I made up in my own cerebral, compulsive thought patterns long about 10 years ago now. I was a journalist. I was working for newspapers. I was documenting the viscera of civil life in small town America. And then 2016 happened, and I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. I might have even gone a step further and decided I did not want to be a part of American civil society anymore, and that I would run away and live in the woods. Metaphorically, because I'm also fat and lazy and very used to being comfortable. At that point, I changed the channel name to Gribble's Folly, I think, and then I shortened it to Gribble, and I wrote a book called Gribble's Folly about my internal process of getting out of news addiction and pursuing a career in an industry that was clearly no longer serving the public interest, and fishing. I decided to quit all that and go fishing. So that's sort of the baseline. That's where we start. Everything here is under that umbrella concept. I called it Gribble's Folly after a book I read in childhood called My Side of the Mountain by Gene Craighead George, where our main character, a young boy named Sam Gribble, runs away to live in the woods, and he finds a piece of land that has been in his family for generations, and it's called Gribble's Folly, and that's, go look it up. It's a good book. So we're not just doing talking head videos here. There's a lot of interesting philosophizing and art and creative stuff. I have a Patreon. Now is a good time to mention that for the low barrier of entry of $3 a month, you can get access to everything you might ever want going on in here. You can see the behind the scenes stuff that I do. You can see that, I mean, honestly, it's not really behind the scenes anymore because there are no scenes. I'm so done with social media that I'm not putting out a lot of work. I'm not showing the public a lot of stuff. So my small Patreon audience, those are the folks that are getting my artwork right now. It's not really going anywhere else. So if you like very physical narrative photography and writing that's made of words, then you should check out my Patreon link below. It's worth noting that last year saw my musical debut. I released an EP and I made a few music videos here on the channel. That's a kind of a new thing worth noting in the reintro, so maybe I'll put some links down below to that stuff as well. Long story short, for some reason, people tune in here to listen to me complain about weekly things in my life, to answer their ridiculous questions, and occasionally to, I guess they're interested in my artwork. But we try to stick to our roots every week, unless I'm sick or for whatever reason not smoking a pipe. I smoke my pipe. This is my Missouri Meerschaum hardwood, custom rusticated by Blue Sage Thrift Studios, which is no longer existent, I don't think. Anyway, it's one of my favorite pipes. And in it, I am smoking Beck's Old Limey Bastard, a brilliant, delightful tobacco. Last but not least, it's worth noting so that you are anchored in a sense of place that I live in Asheville, North Carolina. Yes, that's the town that got obliterated by the hurricane last year. Still haven't processed that. Life is hard, and we deal with that pretty straightforwardly here. I think that, okay, truck going by. You hear the truck? We're gonna test the microphone here. Can you hear the truck? I could hear the truck. It still sets me off my game. Do you remember the cricket? One time there was a cricket in here and it took me like 4 hours to make a video because I would be making some really poignant point and it would start chirping, looking to have sex. Cricket sex, it's really weird. Let's get right to your questions. Les Brady asks Gribbs, if a chicken and a half lays an egg and a half in a day and a half, how many eggs will 6 chickens lay in 7 days? This is easy, Les. My child is in 4th grade and I do these problems all day long. All right, a chicken and a half lays an egg. Is the half a chicken laying a half? All right, okay, and then carry the one. All right, Les. Okay, all right, you threw down this gauntlet. Okay, fact check me here. A chicken and a half lays an egg and a half in a day and a half. That's just 1 egg per day, per chicken. That's a chicken egg per day. That's a day egg. It's like man hours, but it's chicken days. Hang on. It's just 6 times 7. 6 times 7. That's all it is. This is 59. Alexander Gennaro says, when you lose your voice, where does it go? I like to think it goes to live on a farm with its grandparents and it gets to frolic in the field, you know? That's where it goes. A follow-up. With everything going down the tubes, where are the tubes? I think we all know where the tubes are. I think you can have certain operations where they pull the tubes out in each direction and clamp them. Then they say this is not going to hurt afterward. They're wrong. That's come on, that's going to hurt. Hermit Smoker asks Gribbs, which photographer has had the biggest influence on you and your photography? W. Eugene Smith. Not just as a photographer, I mean, brilliant photographer, amazing images. Not just as a photographer, though. The philosophy that he employed, which, let's be honest, was a little convenient at the time. I think that he was not a solid dude. He wasn't a really good businessman. Wasn't good with money, and therefore got into some situations. I mean, he also got his ass kicked by a bunch of like thugs for covering their, the chemicals they were dumping into the water supply and like poisoning people. Yeah. So he had a lot going on, but I think that he was kind of the first photographer to really, that I know about. I don't know, man. I taught photography for like 4 years. I don't know what I'm talking about. I mean, photo history is really complicated. But yeah, he was the first one that I knew about that clearly articulated the idea of letting the truth be the prejudice, that a journalist cannot be truly unbiased, and at some point, you have to accept the fact that you're a human being witnessing things unfold and that the truth as you see it is what you're capturing. Let the truth be the precious. W. Eugene Smith. Hermit Smoker follows up. The most important question, what is your most hated Minecraft mob? I think, as much as I hate to go for low-hanging fruit here, cave spiders. I mean, silverfish are really annoying. Cave spiders actually scare me. Even now, I've been playing Minecraft for 12 years, and there's just something about it when I see the spider webs, from a distance in a cave. Ugh. Minecraft is a horror game. We don't talk about this enough. I have another channel, by the way, as a reintroduction. I make silly Minecraft videos sometimes, every now and then, when I feel I can treat myself to a frivolous project. Go check it out. I'll put a link down there. Alexander Sai says, hate to say this, but you, as our 500th degree shaman, as destined by the ancient rites of occult prophecy, the quality of your horrendous New Year voice must, by decree and destiny, predict the future of America in 2025. That's a very bleak outlook. Fortunately, there are a couple of flaws in your assertion. Number one, I am not the 500th degree shaman. I am a level 50 shaman. There's a big difference. You might think I'm making a joke that would be offensive to indigenous peoples that believe in shamanic work, and you would probably be right. I don't really have a good defense against that, but it is a long-running joke on the channel, and therefore I must remind everyone, level 50 is as high as it gets, right? Okay. I had to start another video file, so we got to sync everything up again. Worth pointing out, you know what makes you lose your voice? When Los Angeles burns down, I imagine smoke inhalation will really irritate your vocal cords. Bad start, 2025. Burninator, a kind of an unfortunate name at this point in the video, says, any resolutions or personal mission statements for this next spin around? I really want to get more serious about making the Sunday Antisocial a podcast. I think that's an intention that is worth putting out there. I would like to smoke my pipe more. I think I already said that. Other than that, I don't really do the resolution thing anymore because I just fail. I just fail every time. Neural Glitch asked Gribbs if you could only take one more picture and you had the ability to go anywhere, what and where would you choose? One more picture? Just like not one more photo shoot, one more picture? I would just take a picture of my wife. And we'd probably go to, I don't know, I'd put her in the river at Yellowstone or something. I don't, I'd go to some amazing place and I'd put her in the river, I mean, not like all the way in the, she'd be standing, waiting in the river. I wouldn't just like toss her in. Grant Reynard says, what advice would you give a high school person that has artistic, professional aspirations like photography or design? Don't. Grant, I really hope that you don't have someone in your life that is making this decision, because let me tell you, it's not a good time to become a photographer or a designer. Or really anything. We should go back to being hunter-gatherers. I am now of the opinion that, and this has kind of always been the case to some degree, if you are going to be an artist professionally, it's not because you want to. I don't want to be a photographer. I have to be. I can't hack it in the real world. Do you think if I could play well with others, I would be making videos in my garage? Hi-Fi 1965 asked Gribbs, in what form of reality is it possible to call 1/6 a day of love? This is easy. Anywhere else in the world where they have the month-day thing reversed from us, June 1st is a perfectly lovely day. Did you know that the January 6ers, it wasn't like a clean, like, freedom fighter insurrection, like we're going to break in and we're going to make a statement. They smeared shit on the walls. Their own shit, I assume. I wasn't there. I assume it was their own. Did they stop at the manure store on the way to the Capitol? I don't think so. So safe assumption, they smeared their own shit on the wall. These are disgusting people. I was at the Capitol over Thanksgiving. Actually, it's my first time ever visiting the United States Capitol. And I took the tour, and they don't say anything about January 6th on the tour, but you go through the places that you recognize, and I was just thinking, man, I hope they Lysol'd the hell out of this shit. John Galdieri, longtime friend of the channel, asked Gribbs, if you had invented the game Minecraft, what would you have named it? I think Minecraft is the perfect name for Minecraft. It is a game about mining and crafting. But if I had invented it and I had to choose a different name, it would be like Creeper Avoider. Cave Spider Avoider. Dovetailing with the January 6th question, Harry, I guess, says, I'd like to ask what your political positions are. There are elephants in the room with us right now that we're not talking about, just given the date, right? But I think that, this is a fair question, especially for a New Year's reintroduction. And there have been a lot of times in the channel where I've said we don't talk about politics here. And I still stand by that. Because to me, talking about politics means debating policy or like partisan politics. And we don't get into that here. But it is a fair question. You need to know who you're watching, right? And so I prefer to answer this question from a sort of higher level of like, someone who can read and has taken Political Science 101. The labels that we use to discuss these things are no longer helpful. And so I think that if we get reductionist with it, right, and we say, well, a conservative is someone who wants to maintain the status quo, and a progressive is someone who wants to change the status quo. Yeah, I could describe myself. No, I would have a hard time. I do not identify as someone who wants to maintain the status quo, nor do I identify as someone who just wants to change it. Some things are good about the status quo. Some things are bad. I don't know why you would build your identity around change or stasis just for the sake of that thing. At the same time, in our society, if you refuse to identify with one extreme or the other, you get labeled a moderate. And I've never understood the people that self-identify as moderates. Like, oh, I know the right answer, but I'm going to compromise on it. What's the point of that? Then you get into the whole left versus right thing and the Democrat versus Republican thing and the small R. I'm definitely a small R Republican. I believe in a Republican form of government. I think that simple majority referenda that's not the best way to govern a nation of 300 million people that is one of the geographically largest nations in the world. It's a bad idea. Am I also a small D Democrat? Yeah, probably so. I definitely want the republics in the Republican system of government to have to answer to the will of the people. Sure. So I've now talked a lot without telling you what I actually believe. So I will be forthright here. I think that in an ideal world, I'm a pretty ardent supporter of laissez-faire capitalism, and I want the government, no matter what form it takes, to be impeded, not just by founding documents, but by a bureaucratic apparatus. I want the government to be impeded from infringing on personal liberty. I think those are my two big, and really they're just one thing, right? Just leave people the hell alone. So that's what I believe in an ideal world. Unfortunately, the actual world requires compromise. And I think that anyone that doesn't believe in a mixed market is a utopianist. Utopist? They believe in utopia, right? So if you take completely unfettered capitalism of the kind that we are seeing now, that's just as corrosive to society as Stalinist socialism. You hear the truck? You hear it? Is the mic working? I think that it's fine to have ideals, and it's fine to believe in one form of government, one form of economic management. I think those things are great, but what it comes down to is are those ideals actually serving you? And we had a big conversation last year after the shooting in Georgia, where I said, "Hey, let's ban the AR-15." I was kind of speaking tongue in cheek. That doesn't square with the fact that I'm a big gun guy, and I just said I want personal liberties to be upheld, right? So what's the deal? I think that the AR-15 symbolically has become a symbol of what's wrong with our society. And the fact that we do nothing about it says more about us than whatever beliefs we claim to hold. That's one example of the way that I think we have crossed into a new era where policy doesn't matter. We can't even talk about policy. Like, we literally can't do it because, number one, most people are morons and don't understand it. And number two, the people that are left are going to fall into tribal camps, left, right, Democrat, Republican, MAGA. We are unable to speak about things in a reasoned way. Policy no longer matters. We've now crossed into an era where character is policy. When the American people vote for a convicted felon and adjudicated rapist for president, they have just written policy. We have just made a decision about the character of who we are. These things are now intertwined, policy and character. We can't get away from it anymore. That is terrifying. That means that we are no longer a nation of laws rather than a nation of men. It's the opposite. So until we get back to a point where we can actually talk about policy, I don't find it super useful to debate, what is my position on X, Y, Z. I mean, I'll give you, I think what you're asking is a fair question, and so I'll try to answer it. I'm certainly what you would call progressive in social issues, LGBTQ rights. I oppose the war on drugs. I don't know what are other progressive. I am for, at this point, and in the past I have been in pretty staunch opposition to it. I am for a single payer healthcare system. I think what we're seeing, what I saw today, is really good evidence against the system that we have now, and we need something better. The system is clearly broken. When you can murder a CEO in the street and most people agree with you, there's a problem there. I certainly believe in a progressive tax structure, as did the Republican Dwight Eisenhower. I think that that is an excellent way of defending, protecting against oligarchy. At the same time, let's see, conservative beliefs that I might hold. I think that, the big standout is my position on guns. And I think that I wouldn't characterize it as a conservative position. It's more just, I believe people have the right to defend themselves, and that would probably not sit well with some of my more progressive brethren. I think that culturally, again, character is policy, and that's why we have a culture war. And I think that for people that play an identity politics game, I'm a big fat white dude with a beard and a ball cap, man. Like, I'm gonna fit in at places and in scenes. I do things and have done things and enjoy things and have interests that a lot of really progressive folks would kind of give me the side eye over. And then I think that deep down, a lot of progressive idealists miss the fact that realpolitik Machiavellian rules apply, that there's just sort of a natural order of things, and a big part of that is that we have the values we can afford. That if you want to, I don't know, for example, if you want to stop climate change, which I absolutely believe in, and that's an area where I would be identified as a pretty hard progressive. If you want to stop climate change, you have to be able to afford to do that. And so the idea that we can just quit driving cars, that's a misdirection. That's actually disinformation. The idea that, I think people are starting to realize, like, oh, Elon Musk is going to save us from climate change with his electric cars. No, that's not how that works. But I think that there are definitely people that would label me as conservative when they hear me say something like, you need to have a good standard of living before you can ask people to make sacrifices. And at the same time, we really need to make some sacrifices. So I don't know if that answers your question. I think the main takeaway is I don't believe in any of it, and I just want to get out of society with my soul intact. But you can't do that unless you want to be Amish and go, raise a barn with your bare hands, and that's that's what you do all day. If you want to have a normal life, like Trotsky said, you can ignore the dialectic, but the dialectic will not ignore you. And that is where I will leave you with that thought. I think it's time. It's been out for 5 years. I think I'm going to make Gribble's Folly a public document. Let me know if that's, since we're talking philosophy here, and since we're talking about the origins of everything we do here, let me know in the comments below if you'd actually like to read it. Because honestly, I don't mind making it public. I'm just lazy and don't want to go set up another download on my website. That's it. That characterizes the whole thing. I've got a great message that I really believe in, but I'm just too lazy to do 5 minutes of work to get it out to people. That's the whole thing. Thank you so much for watching. Keep the ends out for the ties that bind.